Little and Broken, but Still Good, by Wicked Writer on AU3. Episode 15. Chapter 15. The sloth-futtering lights was the first thing that woke up Shouta. Before he opened his eyes, he could feel the warmth of Hizashi as he rested on his chest. He listened to his heartbeat for a few moments, before finally cracking open his eyes. Usually, Shouta tended to move away from his partners during the night, so he was a little surprised that he was still curled up with one of Hisashi's arms around him. "Morning." Hisashi kissed his forehead. "You don't have to wake up on my account. Still used to being early for work." "It's fine. I don't usually sleep much anyways." Shouta allowed Hisashi's fingers to trail through his hair. "Why is that?" Hisashi asked. "Usually Eri wakes me up when the sun comes up." "Speaking of, when do you need to pick her up?" Shouta lifted his head, just enough to see the clock on the nightstand. It was barely past sunrise, and "I still have a few hours." They didn't need to say much else, just enjoying these soft moments together. There was no rush for this morning, no need to do anything they didn't want to. Shouta placed a few kisses along his neck, blood starting to move elsewhere in his body as Hisashi played with his hair. "Coffee, shower, then breakfast. Sound good?" Shouta asked. "That's a particular order. Are you one of those who has to have coffee first thing in the morning?" "Of course, nothing's more important than that." "But you had me first thing in the morning. Doesn't that make me more important than coffee?" Hisashi gave him a coy smile. "Don't push your luck," Shouta teased, but turned on his side to give Hisashi a kiss. "Come on, I'll start the coffee, and you could heat up the shower, and I'll join you." The rest of the morning went nearly as Shouta hoped it would. They took a shower together, lazily kissing as the hot water smoothed away any aches and pains. Hisashi helped with breakfast, although he wasn't very good in the kitchen, but Shouta gave him some tasks that he couldn't possibly mess up, such as whisking the eggs for the omelet. When it came to picking up Eri, however, Hisashi opted to not go with him. It was understandable. After all, it was only the first date, and kids had to ask a million questions. Shouta really didn't want to have to think of a reason why Hisashi was spending the night while she was out of the house. Instead, he walked him downstairs, insisting that Shouta didn't need to walk him all the way to the train station when he had to pick up Eri soon. No sooner had Shouta opened the door downstairs leading outside the apartment complex, they were greeted with a mess of purple hair and a surprised expression. "Toshi?" Shouta paused, holding the door open for Hisashi. "I didn't think you'd be back already." "I woke up early and I wanted to come home. Is that alright?" The boy looked between the two of them. "Of course. How was sleepover at Midoriya's?" They finally exited the complex, Hisashi looking a little unsure of what to do. "It was fun. You got a new video game that we played?" Hitoshi had an actual smile on his face, which was a rarity for Shouta to see. "How was your date?" "It was good," Shouta replied. "Real good." Hisashi smirked at Shouta. Hitoshi, on the other hand, rolled his eyes and looked a little grossed out. "Ew, I didn't need to know that." "What? You asked?" Hisashi pointed out. "I'm going upstairs." With that, Hitoshi pushed past them and ran up the stairs as if to try and escape the conversation. "I'll talk to him later to make sure he isn't scarred from this conversation." Shouta was positive he'd already had sex ed at school, but it was one thing to know about sex as a general concept, and another to realize someone you viewed as a parental figure actually has sex. "Can you text me when you get home?" "Of course. Give my love to Eri and Hitoshi, even if he's mad at me for that comment." They kissed one more time outside the complex, Hisashi wrapping his hands around his neck as if he never wanted to let go. Over the next few weeks, they managed to have other similar dates. They were fortunate enough that Hitoshi volunteered to babysit Eri while they went out. Sometimes it was to a movie, even though Shouta usually wound up falling asleep about halfway through. Other times, they went for coffee and chatted. Once, Hisashi even showed up to his work with lunch and they sat in the break room. Unfortunately, Emmy bugged them the entire time while trying to strong-arm Shouta into agreeing to a double date. While he wouldn't mind that at some point, he wanted to be selfish and keep Hisashi to himself for a little while longer. Once the school year started up again, he wasn't sure how often they would be able to see each other again, so he didn't want to share this precious time he had with Hisashi. Shouta was resting his head on Hisashi's chest, both curled up on the couch. With some anime, Hisashi insisted on watching in the background. It was too difficult to pay attention with soft hands running through his hair, lulling Shouta into a peaceful rest. They had a wonderful date at Hisashi's place. He cooked dinner, then decided to curl up together. Currently, Shouta was struggling to keep his eyes open. The thrumming of Hisashi's heart was a steady rhythm that always seemed to make him feel safe. It was something he couldn't remember feeling in so long. All of his previous relationships were never like this. Shouta always felt like he had to be on guard. Perhaps it was just because that was what he was used to growing up. Never allowed to anyone get close. Throughout the years, he put up walls to keep himself safe. No one cared enough to try, but Eri seemed to have broken out his walls he carefully put up over Love Lifetime. As a result, when Hisashi showed up, he could easily reach out and connect to Shouta in a way he'd never allowed before. Although it wasn't entirely Eri that did the work. When Itoshi showed up all those years ago, that was probably the first crack in his interior that he noticed. Seeing someone who was essentially him as a child, wanting to be that person that he never had in his life, started a ripple effect that allowed for this moment right here. Shouta was grateful for everything that happened to lead up to this. A loud shrill alarm broke through the moment, making Shouta grumble in annoyance. Hisashi just paused the episode they were on. "Don't get grumpy. You promised Satoshi would be back by 10. "I know, but I'm comfortable." Shouta reached out and snagged his phone, sitting up on the coffee table. He silenced it without moving from his spot sprawled on top of Hisashi, before dropping it to the ground. It took a while for them to extract themselves. Once Shouta began to kiss him, it was hard to stop. The soft press of his lips against him was addicting, and when he heard the smallest whimper from Hisashi, he wanted nothing more than to fuck him slow and deep, until he was a babbling mess. Shouta tangled one hand in his hair, pulling Hisashi close against him, while the other teased at the bottom of his shirt, brushing softly against his stomach, inching to trail higher. That was when the second alarm went off. Cursing, Shouta finally stood up and turned off the alarm on his phone. Hisashi giggled at him, but sat up as well, placing a kiss on his cheek. "You should probably go before it gets too late." "I know, it's just hard to leave you." Shouta looked at him, and loved that shocked expression. Ever since Hisashi let it slip that people tended to get bored and leave him, Shouta had been trying to say how often he wanted to be around him. That life without Hisashi was unimaginable. Seeing him surprised at every admission was adorable, but he hoped that one day he would just accept it as a fact. "I feel the same time every time you leave. I wish I didn't have to." "How about our next time you could come over to my place? We can have a family game night or something." Shouta had been trying to get Hisashi to spend time with him and the kids, but he seemed to have the same excuse. "I don't want to interrupt your family time." He knew that it wasn't that Hisashi didn't like Eri and Hitoshi. Far from it, actually. He'd often ask about them and give messages to Shouta to pass along to them, or even small gifts that he saw at the store he thought they would like. At first he thought maybe Hisashi was just uncomfortable since them being together was so new. But now that they were rapidly approaching the end of the summer, he figured there must have been another reason. "You wouldn't. Plus Eri asks about you all the time. She wants to see you. Is there a reason you've avoided coming by the house?" Hisashi swallowed and looked down at the floor. "It's just..." His hands were fidgeting in his lap. Shouta reached out and placed one on top of his to try and calm his nerves a little. "In my many years of teaching, I've seen firsthand how an adult leaving a child's life can hurt them. Whether it's a parent, friend, family, whatever. It doesn't matter. All the child knows is that someone they cared about is gone, and oftentimes they don't understand why. I would hate myself if Eri got hurt if something goes wrong. He had always known how kind-hearted Hizashi was, but hearing how he was intentionally stopping himself from being happy, just to protect Eri from an imagined heartache in the future, was too much. Shouta leaned forward and kissed him so thoroughly that Hizashi was damn near rocked off the couch. There was no way he could allow Hizashi to think like this anymore. Hizashi, I already told you that you're going to be around for a while. I wouldn't invite someone around my kids who I didn't think was going to be a part of their lives for a long time. Really? Hizashi looked at him, eyes a little misty. Of course. I was hoping you're planning on that as well. This time, it was Hizashi to tackle him on the couch, pressing kisses on every inch of skin he could find. When they finally managed to break apart, Shouta actually left. He was about half an hour later than he should be, but Hitoshi didn't seem to care. Eri jumped up as soon as he heard the knocking on the door. She raced over to pull the door open with all her strength. Since Shouta already knew who it was, he didn't stop her. Instead, he watched a smile that took over her face. "Sashi!" she screeched. Shouta had spent a bit of time insisting with her that it was okay to call him Sashi rather than Mr. Yamada, although she seemed to like the nickname that Shouta used instead. Hopefully Sashi wouldn't mind it. "Hey, little listener." He dropped down to be at eye level, although he had to adjust the giant case slung over his shoulder. "So, your dad mentioned you wanted to learn how to play an instrument. Want me to teach you something on the piano?" Immediately, she started to pull him into the apartment, babbling the entire time about how Mai got to learn to play a song on the recorder, so she wanted to learn. Shouta watched as he set up the keyboard in the corner of the room, in front of the bookcase, as Eri asked every possible question she could about what he was doing, what everything was called, and why he assembled it the way he did. The years of being in a classroom was evident as he took every question in stride, teaching her everything he could, and promised she could help put it together next time. Once it was finally done, he turned to smile at Shouta. "Are you coming over here to learn too, Sho?" "Perhaps next time." He walked over to place a quick kiss on Hisashi's lips. "I'll be here, though." He took a seat on the couch, just behind the piano, so he could still be involved, but he wanted to give some space to allow Hisashi to connect with Eri outside of being her teacher. Hisashi nodded and returned to the keyboard, placing a book in the music stand on top and helping Eri sit on the bench. It was barely big enough for the two to sit side by side, but Eri was so excited, she didn't care. Without hesitation, Eri started to smack the keys. A loud catastrophe of noises erupted, making Shouta laugh. "How about we start at the beginning?" Hisashi pointed at the book. "Do you know what these are?" Eri shook his head, studying the music in front of her. "These are notes. Each one relates to a key on the piano to play." He pointed to a particular one. "This one is called C." "C," Eri repeated, nodding seriously. "Good. And you press the key to play that note." He pointed in the middle key and allowed Eri to praise it. A single note ran through the air as he continued to hold it. "Excellent. Want to learn what the others are?" "Yes!" Eri smiled and waited for Hisashi to guide her. Nothing could have prepared Shouta for how much he realized this is what he wanted in life. Hisashi was so good with Eri, showing more patience than himself. No parent ever wanted to admit how often they felt like they were doing a shitty job because they got frustrated with something their kid said or did. But it happens. Parents are human, and as a result, they make foolish mistakes. Shouta always believed that, as long as he could continue to try and do better, it would be okay. Seeing Hisashi so easily correct her mistakes, praise her when she got something right, and teach her so effortlessly, made him realize that this could be his future. He meant it when he told Hisashi that he was planning for him to be around for a long time. We didn't think about how that dynamic in the house would change. Watching his daughter and boyfriend interact just proved it would be a positive one. He continued to watch as Eri pressed every key and repeated the letter it went with. She was a little confused as to why they ran out of letters at G, but Hizashi explained it repeated, and they would learn about higher keys later. This continued for a bit longer, before Hizashi flipped the page in the book to an actual song. He showed her how to play, then encouraged her to try it out herself. While he was a little shaky, the pacing was far off from correct. Shouta could recognize the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb. He was surprised how much time had passed watching these two and decided it was best to start dinner. Walking over, he placed a kiss on top of Eri's head and told her how well she was doing, before kissing Hisashi's cheek. Just as he was pulling out the ingredients, the bedroom at the end of the hall opened up, and Hitoshi wandered out. He gave a polite greeting to Hizashi, but made his way to the kitchen to pour himself a glass of water. He seemed to be spending more time alone in his room lately, but Shouta didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Hitoshi needed some time to process his emotions with everything. He was always extending the offer if he needed someone to talk to, but he seemed to be more comfortable talking to his therapist than anyone else. Need help? Hitoshi's voice startled Shouta a little bit, but he gave a small smile towards him. Could you start the rice for me? They worked around each other. Hitoshi helped where he could, as Shouta prepared dinner, listening to Hizashi and Eri play the piano. Hizashi? Hitoshi asked from the kitchen, making him pause and turn to face him. Do you know how to play the guitar? Yeah, I do. Why? Could you teach me sometime? It was a huge ask for Hitoshi to invite him like this, and Shouta didn't know what to say. He just paused and watched the scene unfold. Sure, although I can tell you from personal experience that being the annoying guy that breaks out a guitar at parties to show off almost never works. Hitoshi laughed. Almost? Shouta asked. Yeah, well, if you go to enough parties, someone will take an interest eventually. Hizashi rubbed the back of his neck, with a slight pink to his cheeks. Think it would work on me? Shouta teased, raising an eyebrow. I know it would. Hizashi smiled, while taking the bait. I'll bring my guitar next time and serenade you. You can't resist me. Shouta chuckled, while Hitoshi, next to him, stuck out his tongue like he was going to be sick. Gross. Old people flirting. He said like a typical teenager. Just wait until you get old, Hizashi reminded him. It was a kind of strange moment for Shouta to realize that this is what he had been missing before. For the first time in his life, he felt like his family was actually complete. Not that he considered himself and Eri or Hitoshi a family, but he had always been told that family was one thing in life that was supposed to love you unconditionally. That he should surround by those people that shared their love for each other to make a complete family. Well, he was certainly happy before, and surrounded with those he loved. This moment, having them all together, helping him see that this is exactly what he wanted in life. Hitoshi. Shouta looked at the young boy. Can you and your sister help set the table? For a moment, he looked shocked, but nodded, trying to hide a smile on his face. Shouta looked over at his family, Eri and Hitoshi, starting to set up the table. But Hizashi smiled at him from the bench on the piano, and all at once, everything felt okay. He was exactly where he was supposed to be, with those who were meant to be a part of his life. Alright, hopefully this video does not get struck down, but this was a nice chapter. Obviously there was smut in the beginning, but this was a nice chapter. Towards the end, specifically. I feel the moment where, Aizawa called Eri Hitoshi's sister was monumental. It was such a small moment, but it was a monumental moment, and seeing Hizashi be reserved for a moment there in the middle of not wanting to obviously be around the kids, because he's like, dude, I've seen what it does to kids, right? And then finally getting into it, and finally, teaching Eri how to play, and then obviously he's gonna teach Hitoshi how to play. It's a nice moment. It's a nice moment. Dating with kids is different. I know parents a single parent specifically, they probably have a hard time dating. One, because they have kids, and apparently that's a big turnoff for most people. Two, because there is a moment where it's like, okay, is it serious enough where I introduce you to my kids? Because I can't just introduce you to, like, every person I motherfucking date, right? It's just, you can't do that. You can't do that to your kids, right? As someone who has had that done to them, because my dad would have a million flings and then just go off, like, you can't do that to kids, right? Now every time he introduces me to, like, a girlfriend of his or you know, someone he's dating, I'm like, oh, cool, hi, nice to meet you. Not gonna see you again, am I? Nope, I'm not. It's gonna be just this one time I see you, like, hi, hello, and then never fucking again. Because let's be honest, you guys just started dating like 2 weeks ago. You're not gonna last. I give it about another week, and y'all break up. Have fun with that, right? I think the only time my dad was in a serious relationship was with my stepmom. And that one ended, and that one hurt. That one hurt because my stepmom had 2 children, and I viewed one of them I viewed them as my siblings, and like now they're off somewhere. I mean, I still follow one of them. I still follow my stepsister, Kayla. Hi, hello, if you're listening to this. I really hope you're not, because at the beginning of this chapter. But if you're listening, hi, hello. Funny seeing you here. You know, interesting seeing you here. Hi, hello. But back onto topic. It's detrimental for a kid. It's gotten to the point where anytime my dad dates, it's like, doesn't really matter. I think I remember the first time. I think it really hurts a kid when it's like you've grown attached to the person. Like, seeing them once and then, you know, never seeing them again is one thing. But for example, with the stepmom, I was so heartbroken when everything went down and they split up. And I was like, dude, what the hell? What the fuck? Like, are we not gonna see her again? What about, you know, my step siblings? Like, specifically my stepsister, we were the same age. Like, I think they got together when I was like 8 or 7. And then they kind of broke up around middle school. So, like I kind of grew up with my stepsister, right? Like, I think they got together around when I was 7 or 8. And then they, like, separated when I was, like, 12 or 13. Or 14, around there, right? So it was a serious relationship. Like, they were even thinking of marriage. And I was like, what the fuck? You can't just do this to me. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? That you can't do this to me. Why must you do this? Right? And then because of that, he had to move away, far, far away. And then I went from seeing him every weekend to once a month to now what it is, which is like once every 6 months. Yep. Once every 6 months on holidays. Yep. We love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. But no, I remember I was heartbroken because, this was someone that I viewed as another mother, and like they're just gone. Same with the siblings, and they're just gone. Like, luckily enough, I was 13, 14. I was in my teens. I was in my pre-teens, or teens, I guess. So it wasn't as effective not as detrimental as it would have been if I was like a little kid. Like, what's it called? 8. Like, don't get me wrong, it still fucking hurt. Because it's like, okay, well, I'm used to our, you know, thing of like, we go over to the weekend and we sleep over there. I have my bed there. I have toys there. I have stuff there. Like, dude, me and Kayla, we were twins. All right? Yeah, sure. We were like 3 months apart, but we were twins. We were rocking it. All right? We were twins. What the fuck are you doing? Like, y'all get your shit together. We're twins. I don't know about you. We're twins. All right? What the fuck is happening? Right? But no, I remember it was like a whole thing of like, well, I'm not gonna see this person again. Because that's the thing about, you know, dating someone with children. If you two break up and you formed a connection with the kids, is it really appropriate to continue to talk to the kids? especially depending on the breakup and stuff like that, for the most part, it was just awkward. It was awkward. Especially because me and my stepsister were in the same school, right? We still talked, and then unfortunately we did stop talking after a while. After I moved. I feel like if I wouldn't have moved, we still would have been close and stuff. It was just the distance and the fact that once I moved, I went into like a depressive state. And then quarantine happened, and then I was busy talking with new friends and new people online, and we just grew apart. We occasionally check up on each other. It's just, you know, I wouldn't say we're friends, but we're acquaintance. We're good. I know them. They know me. I wish, you know, her greatness, and she wishes me greatness as well. And it's a nice mutual thing. But that's on the aspect of when it doesn't work. When the aspects of when it does work, because I have a story for when it does work, because I'm a child of divorce. So my mom is currently married to my stepdad, right? And they've been married since I was a while. So they got together when I was like 9, 8. So around the same time as when my dad got together with his only serious relationship apart from my mother. And I remember the first initial stages of when they were dating. We didn't know they were dating. Me and my little brother, we did not know that they were dating, right? Me and Ekabro, we had no idea they were dating. And then a couple months after, I think my mom finally was like, okay, this is serious, introduced us. I would have waited more than just a couple months, if we're being honest, but I don't know, different times, I guess. And what's it called? I remember the early stages of my stepdad, him trying to win our praises, because like for somebody who's dating a parent, it's not only, you know, having to have chemistry with the partner, it's also having to have a good familiarship with the kids, especially if you're thinking of this to be serious and like to potentially marry this person, because like those are going to become your kids, right? So it's like, I remember the first stages where it's like he would take us out for ice cream, to the zoo, and okay, here's the thing, I do not remember any of it. Any of those. I just know that it happened because there's pictures out there. He would take us to the park, he would take us to the zoo, he would take us to water parks, he would do all of this shit just to try to win our praises. And I remember the exact day he did win my praise. Like, when I was like, okay, alright, I'm cool with you. I no longer hate you. I no longer am wary of you. I accept you. And I remember it was specifically, he was doing all this shit, buying us presents, doing all this stuff, you know, all of this, when all he needed to do was sit down and listen to me rant about how to train your dragons. That's all he needed to do. All he needed to do was sit down, binge watch How to Train Your Dragons 1 and 2. 3 still hadn't come out at the time. Just binge watch 1 and 2. Maybe buy me the CDs for 1 and 2. Binge watch it with me and let me talk about how amazing Hiccup is and how I want a dragon and how I'm heartbroken that dragons don't exist. And that's all motherfucker needed to do. All he needed to do. Right? And he's still in our lives. I'm pretty sure he's fixing up his car right now. He's still in our lives. He's not trying to win our praises as much anymore. Yeah, he's fully in the parental figure stages now. Like, motherfucker grounds us. Like, what the fuck? Can we go back to when you were trying to win our praises, please? Please, please, stop. I do not wish to be grounded or reprimanded or told to go clean something. I wish to be, I don't know, go back to the days where you would buy me stuffed foxes, please. I want more foxes. You know, another fox wouldn't hurt. No, as much as I joke around, like, you know, it's stuff like that where it's, you know, I'm pretty sure Hizashi right now is in the stages of like, I'm trying to win you guys over like the kids, right? He has Eri locked down, obviously, duh. And now it's Satoshi. I wonder what he's gonna do. There's 2 more chapters. I think after this one, we're gonna do a BKDK one. I haven't done BKDK in a while. You BKDK fans are probably foaming in the mouth. I think right now I'm doing 3 found families. I've done found family a lot, but I've done 3 found families. There's 3 that are being found family with Eraser Mike in it. And I find that hilarious. But no, I think I'm gonna break the pattern. Eraser Mike is gonna go away. BKD is gonna be, so I'm gonna have a series where it's found family, Eraser Mike, and Shindeku. And then there's gonna be obviously the found family, or actual family, with Eraser Mike. And then there's going to be the BKDK with no found family. Just BKDK. Woo! BKDK. We love BKDK. And then after that, I think I'm gonna do hot wings. So yeah. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.